Welcome to Jewish Cinémathèque, where we meet some of the important faces involved with films that tackle aspects of the Jewish experience. Today I am joined by writer and film director Tom Nesher, whose first feature film, Karov Elai, Come Closer, is being screened at the Tribeca Film Festival in New York, the only Israeli film selected. Nesher has made several short films, most recently And Now Shut Your Eyes, and has been a correspondent for the Reshet 13 television channel. Come Closer centers on a young woman, Eden, the product of an advantaged and troubled family, whose brother is killed in an accident. Eden and her brother were extremely close, believing that they had no secrets from each other, yet she discovers that there was one thing about which she did not know: a secret girlfriend. Tom chose to take on the subject after she lost her own brother, Ari, who was hit by a car 5 years ago while riding his electric bike on the streets of Tel Aviv. She chose to use cinema as a lifeline to navigate her own grief. Come Closer provides a lens on a segment of young Israelis today whose world around them is so different than that of their parents or the generations before. Tom, welcome to Jewish Cinémathèque.
Thank you for inviting me.
What an amazing film and what an amazing accomplishment. Your first feature, and it's being shown at the Tribeca Film Festival.
Thank you so much. I just heard you saying about the film in Tribeca and the whole story, and I got goosebumps just getting excited to hear about it from your perspective.
It's in today's situation, current situation, Israeli films are just not making their way into international film festivals, and clearly they loved your film. Yeah. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
How did this film evolve? I mean, there was the tragic loss. You yourself, studied film in high school and then went on to Sam Spiegel? Tell us about how this process began.
So I was always very passionate about films. I always knew I wanted to make films. My father is a film director also.
That was your mistake.
So I've seen a lot of films when I was a child, and I really knew that this is the thing I want to do in life. Studied cinema, went on and doing shorts. And then when I lost my brother, of course, that my world was turned upside down. And I knew that whatever I do write, when I get to starting to write my first feature, it will have to do with this subject in some way, because it's like my whole life. It's been really something I can't put aside. And that's also kind of like the journey that the character goes through. She takes this deep dive into love, into this loss, into passion, and I felt like making this film was really the same thing.
You know, I'm always sensitive not to disclose too much about a film, but in an early scene when she and her brother are together on the beach, I wasn't sure if she was his sister or his girlfriend. Talk a little bit about that. Was that your relationship with your brother? You were that close?
We were extremely close. He was my best friend. And I felt like a lot of people were concerned that some people will make that mistake. And to me, it wasn't even a concern, because it's of course innocent, but it's just a really great love, and they're each other's world. And they can't have another connection with another human that is that deep, and they never can. They never would be able to have that. And it was important to me to establish that from the very beginning, that it's more than just a brother. It's like your whole soulmate.
Mistake? No. I mean, I think that was part of the what's going on here kind of situation.
Yeah.
There is a scene right before that where he's on a bicycle and he escapes really with unscathed. You decided to sort of insert that as a way of giving some tribute to your brother. I mean.
So I felt like it was really important to me to make a film that my brother would love. My brother was almost 17, and he was really just this full of energy, fun, funny person. And it was really important for me to make a film that is not like a heavy sad drama, but a film that is full of life and full of love, and is funny and is sexy and like a coming of age story, like one that we would enjoy watching together. And I feel like we were able to achieve that, even though of course there are tragic aspects to the film, but it's also a film that I feel like is very full of love for life.
That world that you portray, young Tel Avivans, entitled, a little crazy. At one point, they sort of drag him, they cover him up, and they literally kidnap him, and they bring him to the beach. Reminiscent of maybe some earlier Israeli films where things were a little bit less edgy, and this group just seems to be loving life within a country that is, I mean, this film was made before October 7th, but still a country that's under siege. Is this kind of life, living, enjoying life, loving, grasping at anything possible, just a result, you think?
You know, there's these statistics about happiness in different countries, and Israel is always getting like a very high rate. And now there was this book, The Genius of Israel, that asks the question, how come Israelis are so happy? And I feel like the main answer is because they feel like they're part of a community and they feel important to other people, and like they have a part in something greater than them. And also in this group in the film, I felt like they really need him. He will really be missed. So it was important to me not only to show him in the family, but also to show him in his group of friends, that they're really united. And then after his death, like the group falls apart, the family falls apart. It all dissolves because he is missing. And I feel like that is something that is very instrumental to my experience, at least, growing up.
When Ari passed away, I understand there were thousands who came to that funeral.
I personally don't remember anything from the funeral,
I can only imagine.
But that's true.
You chose film. You grew up loving film. Your father is a legendary filmmaker, Avi Nesher. One would think that you would then withdraw and move away from this medium, and yet you chose it as your therapy. What's it like to be the daughter of an acclaimed filmmaker?
First of all, my father is just an amazing dad. Like, besides being a good director, he was always super involved in my life. Like, he knows the names of all of my friends that I had ever. He was very into whatever I was doing, and I'm sure he would support me doing anything else. But I feel like cinema is like my maternal or paternal tongue. It's like the language I speak best. It's the thing that is most interesting to me. It's always been this way. We used to have like Saturdays that we watch 4 films in a row in the same genre or from the same director. So it was always obvious to me that I would at least like to be near this. And I just feel so lucky and privileged that I got to make this film.
That's so wonderful, because there's so many people, there's so few daughters or sons of film directors who've decided to take on that career. It's wonderful. And your mom is also...
She's also an artist.
She's an art photographer. So visually, this is, I guess, part of your life. Let's talk about Israeli cinema today. The funding has been created to encourage particularly young artists to make films. There are now, 12, 13 film schools in Israel. Sam Spiegel is world-class filmmaking school. And yet, someone seems to be limiting the kinds of funds being made to filmmakers. What's going on?
It's very unfortunate, the direction that is being taken on right now. I do feel like there will need to be a lot of still more work to do in negotiations before we will be able to have a real dialogue, because anyways, a lot of filmmakers are not agreeing with a lot of stuff that this government is doing. So it's a very complex dialogue. But I really support, and I'm all for having more film directors trying for the first time to make a film. I think that's a really important thing in funding, but also supporting directors that have been to festivals or that have made films that have been meaningful for the culture in Israel and for the people of Israel.
Over the years, I mean, I think of Ariel Sharon once was asked, why are you supporting films that raise all kinds of issues about Israel? And he said, because we are a democracy and we want to encourage expression.
Yeah, and I feel like cinema is a very good ambassador of Israel because in cinema you're able to show human sides, like more humanity out of complex characters, and just to show the normal life and the normal Israelis and the majority of people, and just to be able to create this connection to people. So even if film is critical of a country, I still feel like it's a good ambassador for the country to have more cinema that is complex.
The protagonist is a very complex young woman.
Yeah.
How much of her is you?
So we had a very long rehearsal process, 4 months, in which I was really trying to bring the actresses in the characters. We read every scene and then we improvised on it, and I rewrote the dialogue and the actual scenes to fit who they are. So when I was casting, I was really looking for the most interesting people and not the most accurate actresses. I was just looking for someone who can add their own colors to the characters. So Evan has some of me, of course, but it's also a lot of Leah, the actress this is her first film also.
Her first film.
For both her
Many
and Dalia, yes. And a lot of the crew members too. That was really fun. So there's a lot of them in the characters, and I feel like it's kind of like animals in the wild. You can't really cast a bunny to be a tiger. So I was just looking for a tiger, and I found a tiger. And she added a lot of depth and a lot of herself into the character.
She is clearly connected with her brother, searching for someone to sort of replace that. And yet her relationship spans love to almost psychopathy. You know, she's almost she's, I mean, when they're in the water, in wherever that is, Taba or whatever, it's scary what she has become.
Yes.
Why did you choose to develop her that way? Again, without spoilers.
I have two things to say about this. First of all, the tonality of the film. I feel like life doesn't have one tone, and that's why I don't like it when films are just like so one tone, one voice. You need to be open to the different things that are happening in life. And life can be scary, funny, sexy, sad, tragic, amazing in the same day. So I felt like that is how I should write the film also, to be like evolving around all these different feelings. And then about specifically this character, I loved creating a female character that is just so complex and doesn't feel the need to be liked. She's just her own person. Even if in the way we dressed her, she's like wearing a mini skirt and sneakers. She's wearing like all these necklaces, but they're kind of aggressive and like an armor. So I really liked making this person that is going through something that is extremely difficult and doesn't feel the need to be sorry for having difficulties.
And her friends?
And her friends.
She sort of like pushes them away.
Yeah.
Did this happen to you? You just sort of needed to find your own little corner?
Loss is very lonely. Like grieving is very lonely, at least for me. I had an amazing support system, my parents, my friends, my partner. And I didn't want to have that in the film because I wanted to see what if I didn't have the support system and what if I had like a greater void in my life. But still, even if you have all the support system in the world, you're still lonely because you're missing a person and you can't reach them, and it's just between you and them. And then also in the ending of the film, I felt like it's kind of like like they say, if you love someone, let them go. But then the ending of the film is, if they love you, they will still be on your side. You will just find them on your side, even if you have let them go. So it's lonely, but at the end, you still have this person, you still have the love that you're feeling, even if they're not around.
You shot this film in how many days?
20.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
Can you just, I mean, our audience doesn't necessarily know the filmmaking process, but what is a typical Hollywood film?
You tell me about Hollywood films.
A typical Israeli film.
Yes. No, in Israel, we don't have a big budget, of course, and it's all very condensed to just like a small amount of days. And also we needed to have a lot of, like we shot in my grandmother's house, and my friends are the extras, and the boys in Sinai are just like a bunch of guys I know. I just brought in everyone that I know for this project. Like the girl who does costume design is a good friend of mine. I just brought in everyone who's talented that I know in Tel Aviv, and it was really a blast.
And you gave a lot of individuals their first break, which is incredible.
And they gave me their creativity and their talents.
And they've gone on to continue doing amazing things since this film was made.
Yeah.
What are your hopes for how this film will impact other Israelis and others around the world at a time when anything coming out of Israel is sort of pushed aside?
Well, first of all, about just being an Israeli film at the time, I feel like in these times a lot of people feel like it's a soccer game and you need to choose a side and be pro this or anti this, but it's much more complex than that, and I wish people could see how complicated it is, and just to see humans, and as filmmakers we have the ability to tell human stories and to show complex characters. And then just as a film in general, not as an Israeli film, I have films that are my favorite films, and if you will tell me you like them, I will say thank you, like I made them, even though I had no connection to them. So I hope that people will feel like it's their film. It's like a child that is now grown up and can walk by itself, and I wish people will just embrace it.
Do you feel that because the film is meant to, you tell me, to shake you up at the beginning? I mean, you're sitting there and you're watching and say, oh, these children, look how terrible they are. Look what they're doing to this poor young man. Will the Israeli public, how do you think they'll react to that? Or they're just going to say, of course, that's the younger generation?
I hope they will love it.
No.
I've been getting good reviews, good feelings, people have been very supportive of the film. But I feel like it's very Israeli, and like they know these kind of children, they know these teenagers, they know this youth culture. To me it's just funny, even though it's dangerous and they're doing stuff that are not well behaved. I feel like sometimes you need to be not well behaved.
Not well behaved, and yet within several months they're going to be serving in the IDF.
Yeah, in the ending you see his friends, Nati's friends, in the army's uniform, and you see that like this time of being young is limited, and it's being taken away from you when you're 18. So I really loved focusing on this time that is like twilight time. It's like a phase that is, you're between being a child and being an adult, and you have to grow up, and this loss is just like speeding it up much more than you can grasp, but you're trying to hold it behind and still be a child.
You mentioned that you would sit for hours and watch films with your dad, and yet the father figure here is almost absent.
Yeah.
But the mother plays a very important role again. We're not going to, talk a little bit about that and that choice.
Mm-hmm. The parents are not at all like my parents. I really try to write about another couple that I know. We won't say who. But it was interesting to me to explore these parents and what would happen to them in this kind of tragedy, because when something tragic happens, you need to have a lot of cooperation. You need to agree on a lot of stuff really fast on anything, like when it's a sudden death. Where will the body be buried? Do we do a Shiva? How do we do it? Where is it conducted? What do we do with his room? What do we do with the house? It's like a lot of questions. And I wanted a couple that will have extra difficult times with this need to cooperate. And eventually, like, you need to see the film, but I feel like the journey that the protagonist is going through, she needed to have this complicated parents and childhood to be able to like go full circle and be a child again.
At a certain point, a male friend enters into the story, and there's a lot of tension around that. Mm-hmm. Almost as if he's trying to take the place of the brother. Mm-hmm. Was there such an individual in your story?
No.
Your partner was there by your side,
yes.
supporting you?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a good partner.
Let's take a look at a clip from the film Come Closer, Karov Elai, a film by Tom Nesher.
One spaghetti, lady.
Thank you. רצה לעשות איתי את הטקס הסודי? מה? אני גם רוצה. וואו. כולי פסטה. שים לך עיניים. מה פתאום? סתם סוטים שמתחילים עם ילדות.
איך את ילדה?
גם את ילדה.
הרבה יותר גדולה. הייתי מפרגנת לך אותו.
וואלה, לא מאמינה לך.
תנסי אותי.
כן.
Tom, not a lot of young women are getting a chance to make this first film. Maybe a decade ago, a generation ago, we started to see the emergence of a lot of incredible Israeli women directors, something that had been unheard of the generation before. So you really are now modeling for a whole generation. What's going on in the film schools? Is there encouragement? Are women being given a chance to be equals with men in a very male-oriented, still, society?
I still feel like it's male-oriented, as you said, and it's very like customed for male directors and still not so much for women. But in Israel, it is getting much better. They're now one out of every 3 directors is a woman this year, which is amazing compared to Hollywood, where it's like 5% or something.
Right.
So I feel like something good is being done in the film schools in Israel, encouraging women, and also in the way that the funds work. And I hope to see more filmmakers around the world and in the US and Hollywood, because I really do feel like having a role model is so important as a filmmaker, but also just seeing stories about women made by women is so important as an audience, just to be able to see complex women, just to be able to see your own story being represented. Eventually you're making a film to tell a story and to be able to reflect someone's life to them. And I feel like it's so important to have more stories for a female audience. In Israel, it's already happening, and I just hope to see it.
This was not just for a female audience. I love this film.
Of course.
Right,
of course, it's not only for a female audience, but just...
That reflects, yeah.
Yes, I feel like there's a lot of films that I can't find myself relating to because they're so male-oriented, and they're so, like, the females in the films are being shown in such a way that I can never relate. And I really think it's beautiful that in Israel there's more and more female directors, and I just hope it will be more of that in the world too.
Some American Jews want to see Israel making milk and honey films. You know, let's have the Israelis go around and dance around a campfire and do the Horah. You are showing a different side of Israel. That some might say, well, why are you showing the side of Israel to the world? Your answer?
I think that this side is a very fun side. Like, I like Horror too, but I like parties too. And I think the Tel Aviv parties deserve to be seen. And I just hope that people, young people from any place in the world can enjoy seeing these young people of Israel. It's not like a specifically Israeli story, it's just a story about people who are between 17 to 20, trying to become adults and to deal with very complicated things in their life.
Your next project?
I started writing my next project. It's still a secret.
A secret?
Yes. But I started writing it and I really like where it's going.
Wonderful. And the funding, you think, hopefully if this film takes off, there will be funding out there and maybe you won't need to be dependent on government funding. Let's hope.
Maybe.
Tom Nesher, it's been a total delight to have you join us today. The film is called Karov Elai, Come Closer. It's premiering at the Tribeca Film Festival and hopefully will be in a theater near you in the near future. It's a piece of Israeli life that I think is essential for all of us to see. And what a wonderful way to represent the state of Israel in culture and in art. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you.